Yes. Welcome to the online session for the subject of industrial safety. We are now in the module number 4. We have already completed the module number 1, 2, and 3. And since two lecture, we have started this module number 4. So yes, we will proceed towards it. Basically, in this session, we are going to make the decision tree diagram for different topics. So in last lecture, we have found discussed the uh, steps that is required to be taken, the things that is required to be taken in mind while making the decision tree diagram, and we have also prepared decision tree diagram for general purpose, and we have made decision diagram for 2 to 3 types of subjects. Means petrol engine having the lesser and efficiency than motor which fails to deliver. Such kind of topics have been discussed. So yes, we will be moving towards next. So yes, the decision tree for the petrol engine that start to fail is discussed. Decision tree for diesel engine, which is getting overrated, will be also going to be discussed. Decision tree for the reduced petrol average of the engine will be also going to be discussed. And types of fault in the machine will be also discussed. So first is the dysentery for the petrol engine that starts to fail. So the fault is reduced petrol average of the engine. So it is the fault. So the reason that can reduce the petrol average of the engine will be first worn out piston rings, improper air petrol ratio, means we can say that more air is there, ratio of the air to petrol is not being maintained, poor sparkling, lack of lubrication, worn out clutches, means the sparkling is not done properly, proper spark is not getting, and also the reduction in the average of the engine can be caused. If the proper grease are not applied, if the improper lubrication is being done, then it can also reduce the efficiency. Then clutches, if the worn out clutches is being used, then this can also cause the problem. Worn out piston also causing the problem. And there should be proper ratio of air to petrol, means there should not be either more petrol or less air, or there should not be more air or less petrol. So such type of condition should be avoided, and we should make an alternative to find solution. So yes, for that only we are making this decision tree, so that we can get to know the fault and the reason, means with less time which can be solved will be listed, and each of the reason should be checked, and decision will be made that whether it is faulty or non-faulty. Each and every reason should be checked for the faulty or not faulty. Faulty means whether it is causing the fault, or not faulty means it is not causing the fault. If the reason is causing the fault, then we have to move towards the procedure to remove that fault. And if the reason is not causing the fault, then we have to go to the next reason and find whether it is faulty or not. So this is how the overall analysis of the faults will be made. Next, decision for the diesel engine, it is getting overheated. So yes, in the fault box, the subject should be written, that is the overheating of the diesel engine. In the next series of the blocks, the reason should be given. The reason that can cause the diesel engine to get overheated will be less quantity of water. If the quantity of the water is less, then the engine can also get overheated because it is not getting the proper cooling agent. Next is the driving belt is slipping. If the driving belt, that's the moving belt, is out of its ring or it is slipping, then also the heating can also takes place. Chalked up radiator. If the radiator has got chalk, then this can also overheat the engine because it will not get the cooling agent to get into it. Next is defective motor pump and thermostat. Means water pump that is being using is defective, then there is a chances of the occurrence of the overheating of the diesel engine. Less circulation of lubricant means only one thing, that if it is not being properly lubricated, improperly lubricated, insufficiently lubricated, then again the overheating can take place. Yes. Then chalked up of the lubricant filter. Means chalking up of the lubricant also cause the overheating and overload on the engine. If the engine is getting overloaded, then there might be a chance of the occurrence of the overheating. So yes, all the reasons should be checked for the faulty and non-faulty. If the faulty is getting true, then we have to go. Means the action that is required to be taken for the faulty decision is to remove that fault. Because the removing is the first priority. If the reason is not faulty, then we have to go to the next reason. Next is decision tree for the reduced petrol average of an engine. The faults means the block, the problem block, it should be written such that reduce petrol average of the engine. Means this is the problem. For this, the faults are required to be found. So the reason that can cause the fault is listed on the adjacent blocks. So first reason is worn out piston rings. If the piston rings are have gone out, it has just peeled out. Then also the uh, petrol average will get reduced. Next is the improper petrol ratio. If the engine, if the fuel has, if the fuel tank has more air or less petrol more air, and also the engine can be reduced. Faulty carburetor is very much important. If it is getting faulted, and also the reduction in the average of the engine can be done. Poor sparkling. If the sparkling is not proper to the required extent, then also the failure can also take place. Lack of lubrication. Insufficient lubrication is very much harmful to all the motors, to all the engines. So proper lubrication should be done. There should not be any lacking in the lubrication. One out clutch plate. The same reason in the diesel engine. So yes, all the reasons should be checked for the faultiness and the non-faultiness. If the faultiness is getting true, then the action that is required to be taken is to remove that fault. And if the reason is not faulty, then the action is remove that, go to the next fault and find the fault whether it is faulty or not. Next is decision tree for the electric motor that becomes hot in short time. So yes, in the fault box, fault block, electric motor that is becoming hot in short time should be written. And then in the next adjacent series of the blocks, the reasons should be written, and the reasons that can cause the electric motor to get hot is, first of all, lack of lubrication. If the lubrication is not properly provided, it is insufficiently provided, if it is lacking to the required extent, then the heating can take place. One out bushings. If the bushings has got one out, also the electric motor can get hot. Broken bushings. If the bushings have got broken up, they have got teared up, they have got fractured, then also the failure can take place. Faulty bearing. So if the bearing is not being done proper, then also the engine can get hot. And tight bearing. If the bearings are not being properly tightened and if it is loosed, then also the failure can take place. If the cooling is not being provided, then also the failure can also take place. So yes, these are all the reasons that can cause a problem. Means that can increase the heat in the electric engine. So yes, all the reasons should be checked for the faultiness and non-faultiness. Means ultimately we have to take the decision. So it should be checked and should be checked for the faulty or non-faulty. If the reason is getting not faulty, then we have to go to the next reason and find its solution, or we take the decision. But if the reason is getting faulty, then the first priority is to remove the fault. In any other, we have to find solution. Yes. So that should be done for all the reasons. It should be checked for the faulty and the non-faulty, and accordingly the action should be taken. Types of the fault in the machine. So there are many types of faults. Means the wearing of the parts, and vibration and noise produced during the operation, overheating of the parts, poor condition of the prime mover, poor running condition of the parts. So these are all the types of the faults that has been caused during the machine. Wear and extra noise sound is produced, overheating is taking place, the temperature that machine is showing is quite high than what is required. So yes, these are all the things. General types of general types of faults are the failure of the planned maintain work. If the maintain work has got failed, then the failure of the replaced worn out parts. Means if the parts have got worn out because of the more usage, more improper lubrication, improper maintenance, poor maintenance, ignorance of the lubricants is also a problem. If we are not lubricating it properly and daily with a sufficient with the proper material, and also the failure can also takes place. Ignorance of the cooling system. If the cooling system is not being provided, then also the failure can also take place. Then low high voltage improper fuel, that also takes place. Vibration in the machine is also a problem that can cause the failure. Machine running with the humming sound, means humming parts, can also cause a problem. Heating of the machine with abnormal, this is also a problem. So these are all the things that is required to be taken care. And yes, thank you for attending my session. This is Professor Akasar Sutar. See you in the next session.